Good afternoon, everyone. And I'm Jane Barnsteiner, and I'm delighted to be here with you today. And I'm going to talk about some of the influences in nursing, but also generally in healthcare related to the ethics of publication and some work that we've been doing related to this. But just to give you a little bit of background, particularly around nursing, some of you may not be familiar. There are 3.1 million registered nurses in the United States, just in the United States today. 1/3 of those folks are older than 50. So we are going to have, in the next 10 years, a huge wave of nurses getting ready to retire. And we already have a tremendous shortage of nurses. 55% of those 3.1 million have a baccalaureate degree or higher. And we are on a trajectory that by 2020, 80% of all registered nurses will have a minimum of a baccalaureate degree. Right now, in the United States alone, we produce about 2,500 folks with a doctorate per year. 84.8% of nurses are employed in nursing in some way or another, so we have the largest labor force participation rate. In the latest statistics we have in 2013, over 75,000 qualified applicants were turned away from admission to a nursing school because of a shortage of faculty. 2/3 of nursing schools in the United States report that they have a faculty shortage. The mean vacancy rate in schools of nursing for faculty is 8.3%. One of our top 10 ranked schools of nursing in the country, I won't name the university, but decided a couple of weeks ago, the faculty, that they could only begin now to take 2 to 3 doctoral students per year in the School of Nursing because of all of the budget cuts. It's a state university. They've had a lot of budget cuts, increasing workloads, and that they just aren't able to manage given all of their other responsibilities. There are a number of programs. We have a tremendous need. So one other piece is we're taking younger and younger people into our doctoral programs in nursing. And so folks oftentimes are going straight through from a baccalaureate to a PhD. And so there's a need for many faculty development or early career programs to support them. And we have quite a few now that have sprung up over the last couple of years. The Jonas Foundation out of New York has a program to support doctoral students and postdoc fellows. Robert Wood Johnson Foundation has a very nice program for developing early career researchers. And then the Nursing Society, Sigma Theta Tau International, also has a program. So what does all this have to do with anything? Well, very much, as Chris said, and was talked about yesterday and today, many young faculty get no grounding or socialization into the whole publication process. And one of the questions that many of us as editors have been grappling with is that there are established international standards, the COPE, ICMJE standards in terms of international standards on who is qualified to be an author, needs to meet these 4 criteria of substantial contributions, drafting the article or revising it, final approval of the version to be published, and stating that everyone who is listed as an author should have absolutely made a contribution, and everyone who's made a contribution should be listed as an author. Seems clear. But one of the things that has been being identified with great increase over the last dozen years or so is the rate of inappropriate authorship, and particularly honorary authorship or guest authorship, and then ghost authorship. Honorary authorship being people who don't meet any of these international standards to be listed as an author, and then ghost authors are people who have made significant contributions and are either not listed as an author or acknowledged as having made a contribution. We had a lot of empirical data. We there have been studies published in health related to this in healthcare journals. We had a lot of empirical data among nurse editors related to inappropriate authorship, people identifying that they'd had assistance from paid professional writers that wasn't acknowledged, or failure to disclose that they'd had writing assistance, or that many people were identified as expecting, and young, particularly early career researchers, doctoral students, being caught in a bind of people saying, I need to be listed on that paper by virtue of the fact that I'm the department chair, or I was the teacher in that particular course that you taught, or the person taught. So a couple of years ago, I, along with two other colleagues, embarked on a study to really assess the prevalence of honorary and ghost authorship in nursing journals over a 3-year period, 2010, 11, and 12. And we did this given that a number of other studies that had been done in healthcare journals and the Cochrane Collaborative. And we wanted to compare the occurrence of this in nursing journals with that in Cochrane Collaborative and in medical journals. And so this is what we found. In JAMA published two, I think about a half dozen years apart, surveys that they had done across quite a number of journals in healthcare, medicine specifically, and they found a 17.6 percentage rate of honorary authorship and a 7.9% rate of ghost authorship. The Cochrane Collaborative also looked at their reports and found that there was a 39% rate of honorary authorship and a 9% of ghost authorship. And what we found, we surveyed corresponding authors who had published in these 10 journals over a 3-year period, who had published original research, quality improvement, or research synthesis meta-analyses articles. They were the ones that we looked at. And we found a 42% reported rate of honorary authors and a 27.6% rate of ghost authorship, which is quite horrifying and surprising. And then we had some questions that related to, was there anything else that the folks who responded to the quantitative part of our survey, was there anything else that they wanted? There was open question. And many of the people who participated in did write in comments, which we broke down, analyzed, and they fell into really 4 themes. That many people who are publishing, they reported that there's really a general lack of awareness of what the rules are for authorship, that people don't get socialized to this in their education programs, and they don't feel like there's enough information that's available to help to socialize them into what are the rules, if you will, around publication. That there's a tremendous need for debate and discussion on promoting what are ethical practices in publishing. That there is a culture of knowingly tolerating and sometimes deliberately promoting transgressions in practice. And then there's a whole power relations and practices. So in terms of the lack of awareness around the rules, there's a need for mentoring, a need for toolboxes, a need for really putting together some better programs that are now available to help socialize, particularly doctoral students, postdocs, early career researchers, around what are the rules for authorship. Order of authorship is a very confusing topic for people, and needing clear, consistent guidelines of who should be an author and who should be acknowledged. In terms of the need for debate, that there needs to be some kind of a systematic, recognized system in place, that some authors really don't do very much or understand. There are very few discussions around authorship criteria, and that it's good to agree what the order of authorship is going to be at the beginning of a project. And so just having guidelines, what we're thinking about are toolboxes that are available in organizations to help people generate discussions of this. And that with this bottom is one of the quotes that we got. Unfortunately, in medical science, everybody thinks it's normal to be listed as a co-author, even though they don't do anything, except maybe recruit participants or read the manuscript once. So these are some of the binds that some of our particularly early career researchers and doctoral students get into when they're trying to develop a portfolio for themselves. Knowingly tolerating some egregious practices related to publication. In some situations, people saying the only way that I can get in and be able to get people to participate in my studies is by agreeing that the person who's allowing me to have access to some of their patients or clients is that I can agree to give them authorship on the paper. Some people can't write, and so they employ writing assistants to do the bulk of the writing, but that isn't even acknowledged when a manuscript is submitted. And gift authorship is a problem. Again, this is a quote that's not going to go away while heads of departments view their major role as obtaining funding and everyone else doing the work and doing the writing. But that department head expects to be listed as an author of the work. The power relationships that go on in many of our institutions of higher education, senior investigators being expected to be listed as the last author. A lot of changes have taken place in schools of medicine over the last decade related to this. This is becoming less common, is my experience, but in some of the other health professions, that is not the case. We still have that as a tradition. A dissertation, one of the corresponding authors who was a doctoral, an early career researcher, commented on the fact that her dissertation chair expected to be on every single paper that doctoral student published by virtue of the fact that she was the dissertation chair. And then again, a common practice in many research groups is that everybody puts each other's names on manuscripts so that everybody's able to build a portfolio, and that having direct supervisors who demand that their names be listed regardless of whether or not they had any input into the work. In terms of going forward, I think healthcare journals need to adhere to and publicize what the criteria is for authorship. Many journals, but certainly not the majority in both medicine and nursing, many journals require, with the submission of the manuscript, that each author that's listed has to check off exactly how they participated in the development of that work. And then the corresponding author has to sign off on whether or not there were any other people who were involved in the development of that manuscript who are not listed as a co-author or not listed in the acknowledgement section. And then we need to promote ethical behavior to ensure the integrity and trustworthiness so that the work that's being published is free from bias and conflicts of interest. So we have been doing a lot of work among healthcare editors in trying to move things forward, but we still have a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done with doctoral students, early career researchers, in helping to socialize them into what are the ethics of publication. And we will see nothing but tremendous growth, particularly in nursing, given what's happening in healthcare with the numbers of people who are going to be retiring, new people who are going to be coming in to fill some of those positions. And so there's a lot of work ahead of us related to assisting early career researchers and doctoral students in terms of ethically building their portfolios. Thank you.